And these type of problems that we're going to do with absolute values now end up with no solution, and I'm going to go ahead and show why they end up with no solution. So we want to solve these. The first thing we want to do with any absolute value is get it by itself. So we have to minus this 8 to both sides, and that gets the absolute value by itself, get a negative 7. Now here's why we know. Absolute values, no matter what the answer is always have to be positive. Since this answer has to always be a positive answer, it can never equal a negative. So in this case, when you have an absolute value equaling a negative number, you have a no solution. And so you don't even have to solve it or work it out once you get an absolute value by itself equaling a negative number. That's why it's important to subtract this 8, because you need the absolute value by itself. So let's look at this next problem down here, letter B. I'm going to subtract 8. Once again, the same thing is going to occur. I'm going to get a negative answer with my absolute value of 4b plus 1. And because of that, it's a no solution, because an absolute value can never equal a negative number. Let's look at our last example here. I'm going to divide by negative 2, because that's what's on the outside of the absolute value sign. So to get rid of it or get the absolute value sign, 3a, by itself, I end up once again with a negative number, and that's how we have a no solution. And that is absolute value signs equaling negative numbers can happen. So we're going to do absolute values where we're going to find and see if both solutions work when we do them. Once you have the absolute value sign by itself, you can then set up your equation. So I'm going to go x plus 10 equals 4x minus 1. That's your first equation. Your second equation is the same exact thing, except that you change the sign of everything to the right. So that becomes a minus 4x plus 8. So let's do our first equation. If I subtract over the 4x, I get a negative 3x. And if I subtract the 10, I get a minus 18. And divide by negative 3, I get x equals 6. So all I did was solve the equation. And now I'll do the blue one, do the same thing. I'm going to add the 4x, so that's going to be 5x, minus the 10, so that's going to be a minus 2. And I divide, I'm going to get x equals a negative 2/5. So let's substitute the 6 in to our equation up top. So if I substitute 6 in for x, and 6 in, I get 24 minus 8, I get 16 equals 16. If I do this negative 2/5, let's just do the right side of that equation. So I'm going to have a negative 2/5 plus 10, and then I'm going to have 4 times a negative 2/5 minus 8. Right here, I'm going to get a negative answer. And I don't know exactly what it would be, but it would be a negative answer. So once I see that I have a negative answer, then this one is not a solution. So our only answer to this problem is 6. So it only has one solution, even though we create 2. Let's go through the same process down here on our next example. I'm going to add my x to both sides, and so that gives me a 2x plus 1 in my absolute value, and that gives me a 4x minus 4. Now I'm going to divide everything by 2, so x plus 1 equals 2x minus 2. There's my first equation. My second equation will be x plus 1 minus 2 and plus 2. So all I did was change the sign, everything to the right. Now I solve each of these equations. So if I solve, I'm going to get a minus x minus 3, and then x equals a positive 3. There's my first one. If I solve this one, I'm going to get 3x equals 1. So x is going to equal 1/3. Now if I substitute the 3 back into my original equation, so let's substitute the 3. I'm going to get a 2. 3 plus 1 minus 3 equals 3 times 3 minus 4. So if I do the math of this one, this is going to be 4 times 2 is 8 minus 3, that's a 5. And 9 minus 4 is a 5. So this one works. Now let's see if the blue one works. So if I substitute a 1/3 into the equation, 2, 1/3 plus 1 minus 1/3 equals 3 times 1/3 minus 4. It's 4. You're going to get 1 minus 4, which is a negative 3. And when you add that, you're still going to get a negative 2 and 1/3, which means we're going to have a negative answer. That absolute value cannot equal, so this cannot work. So this is not a solution. All right, let's look at our last problem here. And I need to isolate my absolute value sign, so I'm going to add the 2x to both sides. So I have a 2x plus 2 equals 3x plus 3. Divide everything by 3, so I have a 2x plus 2 equals x plus 1. And if I solve, I'm going to get x minus 2, negative 1. There's my first one. Let's do the second one. I'm going to have, where is it going to be? The 2x plus 2 equals negative x minus 1. So if I solve this one, add 2, I get 3x minus 3. X equals the same exact number. So we have the exact same solution, so there's only one answer, and that is the negative 1.